So we are on the way now to the furniture factory. If you are considering sourcing furniture products in Vietnam, you do have a lot of manufacturing zone in southern Vietnam. And then especially if you are focusing on Ho Chi Minh City, neighboring area, you have districts such as Cu Chi, Tan Binh, District 12, or even Hoc Mon. Over there you have a lot of small scales to mid-scale furniture factories, and today we are visiting one of them. That factory has been recommended from our network. So we do want to have on-site inspections, meet with the key representative of the factory and see and assess directly to the production line to have an understanding about their current processes, methodology, how they do quality control, for instance, and then all the questions that we may ask about their capacity and their requirements. So let's go over there. We arrived right now at the factory. We just had a tour and visited all the facilities, so the production area, the packaging area. And from my first perspective on this factory is that they are quite high in terms of the standards that they are having compared to other Vietnamese factories. You can give us a quick introduction about yourself first and then your factory?
Okay. Well, I'm Roland and I'm here at the factory to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. Yeah, I've been doing this for probably about 15 years now. For our company here, I've been in the industry for about 24 years, looking after factories and looking after our product lines, designing product and making sure everything goes nice and smooth. Our factory here, we're fairly software orientated in a sense that software controls our entire factory, meaning from the design, we can take a job and send it directly into our factory and the factory machines will know what they have to do. So it really simplifies the process of manufacturing.
What I feel is that here in terms of human resources, you barely have the minimum. You use a lot of machine, you have a lot of processes in place. You explain us how you have stickers everywhere to make sure that you can track inventories, raw materials, etc. So that's something you also implemented over the years to try to simplify your human resources and also rely more and more on technologies and software to have processes that are very well in place and so you can leverage everything, right?
Absolutely, yes. This is basically a result, actually 20 years of my life, quite frankly, trying to figure out how can I streamline individual steps for every department, for every process. Anything ranging from sales to production to logistics has to be taken into account. And yes, without the help of any kind of computers, we'd be drowning in paper. First question for you, why foreign SMEs or entrepreneurs should consider Vietnam among other destinations if they are looking to make indoor furniture for exports? Vietnam furniture industry actually exports to over 120 different countries. And people are coming to Vietnam just because of its simplicity of dealing with the people. Communication is very easy here. The majority of the population, especially in the urban centers, everybody speaks English, makes communication a breeze. And Vietnam, as we found out ourselves, the infrastructures that's set up for our container shipping, to ship something from across the road to the nearest dock to get it onto a boat is actually quite well organized. It works quite well. We sometimes ship 2 containers a day, and for us that is paramount. And so I think for any other company from outside Vietnam to come to here and say, look at this and say, yeah, this actually works well. And being in the central of Southeast Asia, you actually have, as a factory, easy access to everybody in Asia. Meaning if you find some products that, you can get out of Malaysia, or you find something that you need out of Thailand, you know what, you're right in the middle of it. It's very easy to go ahead and have access to everything that Asia has to offer.
Interesting point of view. Yeah, totally agree with that. I think Vietnam, in the current dynamics in the region, can be a magnet not only for furniture, but for a lot of companies who are looking for diversification. And Vietnam, just with the closest aspects, as you mentioned, you can easily import fabrics from Thailand, you can import some metal parts from China because they are more competitive. Absolutely. And basically you can consider Vietnam first as an assembly line manufacturing country, and then later on also not only do that, but also look for local materials that are also in country. We can think about even acacia, rubber wood, right, that can also be sourcing locally for some type of indoor furniture, and that can be suitable for a furnishing exporting business.
Absolutely. One other thing that's actually key for factories here in Vietnam is Vietnam has a huge labor force. Yeah, and if you compare Vietnam to China, for example, China has been the #1 manufacturer for many, many years. And in recent years, not so much anymore. It's the actual labor, it's the wages, everything has gone up. It's becoming a much bigger middle class than what it used to be. And people aren't that interested in working anymore, which also brings the cost of the product up because everybody wants to make more money. Vietnam is still in a stage where everybody's looking for, I need to have some work, I would love to work. Many people are happy to work in actually a foreign-owned company because it gives them a certain amount of security. So they know that company is here, the company is here to stay because that company made a certain amount of investment. It's not like somebody just opened up a shop and closed the doors 2 days later.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back a bit to the history. So you've been setting up this entity in Vietnam like roughly 10 years ago, right, to support the Canadian company. And then initially the plan was to use the local workforce, the local abilities into making furniture from Vietnam for foreign markets.
That is correct. We started in about 2009. And about 2010, I came with Bao to Vietnam, and we started scoping for factory locations. We had a look at a number of different locations to see if we can find some place where we can set up a factory. And we finally settled on one location, and that was where we set up our first factory. Now we're actually at our third location, because every time when we outgrow our space, we decide to move, and now we're at our third location. We've got 20,000 square meters. We moved here about a year ago, and everybody here is enjoying it because we have a lot more space.
I feel like this factory is quite branded new compared to other ones that I visited before in Vietnam. Initially, the first factory was also in southern Vietnam, right? So you really aim for this part of Vietnam as somehow the center and the hub for indoor furniture?
Absolutely. Actually, all of the 3 factories we've had probably within about a 5-kilometer radius from here. One of the reasons why we did not want to move away from our first factory location too far was simply because of our staff, our employees. They understand how this works, they like working here. So we just moved probably, I would say, less than 5 kilometers from our first factory location to a second location. And again, to our third location, it's probably a 3-kilometer stretch. But it allows us to keep all of our staff, and it's no major change to them, while we are at the same time able to grow.
What about now some of the product categories that you are specialized? Can you mention some of them?
We're primarily actually focusing on kitchen cabinetry. That is the main what we do. We include the countertops in there, but we also have been doing some hotel suites, and we do a number of custom production runs for customers. Sometimes we have a customer that comes to us and says, hey, we like your factory, we like your location, but we don't really sell kitchen cabinets, but we sell these tables or these shelves to our customers. Can you make them for us? Can you package them for us? And yes, we can. So currently we're actually doing a production run of tables, and each table is individually wrapped in its own cardboard box, so all branded to our customer's name, of course, and we will ship them out by container to our customer's warehouse, which in turn will send them on to their stores to be resold.
Okay, interesting. So you go from kitchen cabinet to hospitality to all type of indoor furniture. Are you also expecting to expand to other verticals or to other products in the future?
We always are. We always are. We're always looking for something new that we can do. I think we all love the excitement of actually creating something new.
Okay, so from the factory, I see that you have everything linked to wood. Do you have any plan also to expand into getting your own metal line in the future, also to support the frame of the indoor products?
Okay, we actually have a number of customers that we have sold metal frame shelves and metal frame cabinets to. Actually, in the past, we have our own suppliers locally here in Vietnam. So we'll actually custom make the frames for us as per our specs, and that is what we actually ship out to our customers. We buy the frames locally here, and everything's set to match exactly to our cabinets, and our local supplier already knows what our specifications are, and yes, we have been doing that.
Okay, so it's interesting to see that you will stay on what you know, and then all the other things you will be using subcontractors. You even show us some of the screw, right, that you are really doing custom made with your own specifications. So some of the key parts of your product, you'll be also going to molding and to finding the most suitable supplier in Vietnam. To be able to source locally and then also to provide somehow the best for your clients?
Absolutely, absolutely. If we had to do, for example, some metal framing ourselves, it would take us a year to figure out how to make it look nice. It's a much better process for us to go and source that out, find a supplier who can do the product for us and more work with it that way. It's a much better choice.
Okay, let's go back a bit to the OEM that you mentioned. Do you have any requirements into MOQ or specifications If someone comes with a good idea that you think can be relevant for you to also equip your factory with, is there any requirements on that?
Well, yeah, we try and keep it fairly simple. We usually just say, one container. Mm-hmm. That's basically what we usually say for a minimum order to make it worth the production run. But it does not really matter what it is.
The tech pack, do you have in-house a team that can also support all the tech pack, the design, the CAD files?
Absolutely. We have a technical design team upstairs, and they have been doing all of the technical drawings that are required for every job that's going out. Especially for our US clients, we often need to have very detailed technical drawings every step along the way. And yes, we have our own design teams for that. We actually have also design teams that will work for just the simple retail customers. We can provide you with pretty pictures, renderings, everything you need. So we do have our teams on hand for that. It's a necessity.
Okay, interesting. And regarding the quality control, what are the measures that I put in your factory to be able to track from the raw material to the packaging line that everything is right as it's planned?
Well, we have a very simple quality control system. Like every piece, when you pick it up, first thing you do is look at it, make sure it's okay. You machine the piece to whatever it needs to be done. When it's done, completed machining, you check it first. If it's damaged, okay, we don't want it anymore. But if it looks good, now we actually take measurements to make sure that everything is exactly as it has to be. And make sure there are no chips, no damages. Sometimes we use jigs to make sure that items fit together properly. And it's faster than actually measuring and it's more accurate. In addition to that, we use primarily computer-controlled equipment, which means we make one piece, the next 500 pieces will be identical to the very first piece. So it really helps us on the quality control. Nevertheless, we still have to handle every single piece, especially when it comes down to our edge band. You make sure the edges look nice. Some machines do a good job, absolutely. By eye, you can see, yeah, it looks nice, but sometimes the only thing that gives it away is the feel. So we actually handle every piece individually. We have our teams whose job it is to make sure that this edge feels nice. So our quality control, everybody is part of the quality control system. When something goes from one department to the next, the person working at the next department will always make sure that every piece they receive is good. If there's a flaw, it goes right back to the previous department and say, hey, what are you guys thinking?
Okay, nice, interesting to see that each part of the factory have people who is responsible for. Absolutely. And then of course that person will be in charge of making sure that the in-house processes there are followed. Certificates wise, what do you have in-house to make sure that you match and then you meet with the requirements some of your foreign buyers we have?
Oh, absolutely. We have to be very careful about that because a lot of our clients actually in North America, very strict rules as to what the material can consist of, what chemicals are allowed in the materials. So especially when we put it into somebody's home. So, one of the certificates that we have, obviously everything is CARB 1 or E1 certified. We have the forest management certificate. And I think those are probably the key certificates that are required for North America.
So you're right that obviously factories will need to equip themselves with the appropriate certifications. As soon as you want to export as a manufacturer, you will need to match the requirements that are in foreign markets. So Canada and then US may be more easy than Europe for some specific product categories. So it's an investment that any exporting business will have to obviously take into consideration. I have a last question for you, and it's going to be more about the recent election and what can be the future for Vietnam in Southeast Asia. Many companies are thinking about relocation, diversification. You have some recent tension with Taiwan. How do you see Vietnam coming in the map in the APAC region?
Well, I think if the tariffs, as it were, announced, will be implemented, it will be pretty much more focused on the big countries like China, for example. I don't expect Vietnam to be saddled with such huge tariffs itself. As to your question of relocation, I don't think it would be any benefit to actually move from Vietnam to Thailand or to because everybody would be set with the same tariffs. We're just hoping that us here in Vietnam will be spared the brunt. Our costs won't go drastically up to sell.
So thanks again for your thoughts today. I'm very happy to bring this to our YouTube channel and then hopefully to bring more awareness about Vietnam as a manufacturing country and also from a factory that is implementing a lot of software processes in-house just to try to optimize all the processes and to support more export business.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
down and I'ma get it right. Dead on sight like